And that's why fighting's like not so much about your opponent. It's like just a race. You're in a race against yourself. You're in a race against like self-improvement, and it's just me versus me. I'm not even worried about my opponent. He's not my worst enemy. I'm my own worst enemy. I'm the one that keeps tripping myself up.
Emilio, the honey badger, Urrutia!
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Honey Badger Hour. This episode of the Honey Badger Hour podcast is brought to you by the original Clippers Barbershop. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Honey Badger Hour, UFC 290 exclusive. We got a big one today, folks. I'm joined by a longtime friend, old teammate, a UFC staple, one of the most entertaining fighters in the game right now, coming out of New Zealand, my man, the Dan Hooker.
I've been waiting, brother. I've been waiting. Obviously been big fan of the Honey Badger Hour. I've been waiting to get on here. I've been waiting for my turn. I've seen everyone else in there. I've seen Eugene. I've seen Israel. I've seen absolutely everyone. It's my turn. It's finally my time to shine.
Let's go. That's why you got the haircut. It was just for the Honey Badger, right?
For the Honey Badger. I don't want to give it away at the media. Just the media day today. They're going, why did you do it? Why did you do it? I said, I just felt like it. But realistically, let's be honest. I did it for the Honey Badger Hour.
My man. Dan, it's been a long time. We've come a long way since when we used to train together in Phuket, Thailand. In old Bangkanam.
Facts.
In the Bangkanam, that's when you were signed. I remember we were smoking a joint in the room, and then USADA came, and I was like, oh, snap. You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, no, we good.
The next day, you're like, nah, we're all right.
We're all right.
Oh, man. I like the new hair, bro. How's it look? What inspired the new haircut?
Nah, actually, just like an impulsive thing. I was just like, last minute, I got it done, so like a couple of days before I flew out. I was just like, why not? Why not? It's just, I honestly don't have a good reason. I'm just a bit too impulsive of a human being. I like it. You got the new look. You got the tattoos. You got the hair. And you know, honestly, brother, you've had a different vibe this week, man. I feel like you've been really I've been feeling good energy from you since we seen you last night in the morning. Yeah, man. Just like, just through all that, like, you just mature as a person, like, over time. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm better at dealing with everything, better at processing emotions, better at processing what's going on around me. And it just, I feel like I'm a better person. Like, that's what everyone says, like, difficult times bring out, like, the biggest improvements in yourself as a human. Like, I feel like myself and a lot of other people, like, use the sport not as we don't fight for money, or we don't fight for attention. We don't fight for anything like that. We fight. I use martial arts. I use fighting as a tool to, like, improve myself. And I feel like over the years, you slowly get those lessons, and the lessons that you learn in the cage, you apply to your life outside of the cage as well. And that's this is my therapy. This is my everything. That's why martial arts, that's why fighting, like, means so much to me. That's why when people are like, oh, well, when are you gonna walk away from? It's like, bro, I'm never gonna. I can't walk away. Like, it's like a dependent on martial arts.
What's the longest you've gone without competing?
This might be close to it.
Right?
This is like, I believe it'll be 9 months.
Wow.
Since I've been in there. So, this might actually be the longest I've gone. I'd have to double check that, but it'll be damn close. Yeah. And it's not like I haven't been training the whole time, you know what I mean? Like, pretty much done a training camp. Like, it was 2 weeks out that I broke my hand last time. So I was like, I did 3 months of training for Jalin Turner. In that 9 months, I've done 6 months of training for Jalin Turner. It's not like I've been sitting on the couch like doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. You know what the thing is too, like with training being your therapy, man. It's like, how lucky are we that we have that out to like release all these demons? You know, that's what I feel like. What I call it when I train, it's like releasing the demons. I have all this weird pent up aggression inside, but once I go to the gym and I get it all out, I just feel like, right?
Oh,
Like,
facts. I was lucky enough that I found it at the age I found it. Like I was 18 when I just went in. Like I just turned 18. Went and did a class. I went and did like 1 or 2 classes, and I was like, wow. Like I went home and I was just like, well, guess this is what I'm doing with the rest of my life. It wasn't like it was no question. I was just like, man, nothing beats this. So it's like I was lucky that I found it at the age that I did. You know, I feel like it saved me. Yeah, like it's like a constructive outlet for that aggression. Like you're like an aggressive young kid, always got like too much energy, and it's just giving you, yeah, like martial arts, because you obviously have to harness that aggression. You have to be able to harness your emotions, because in a fight, it's not like a street fight where, you know, in a street fight it's like who can be like the most aggressive the fastest is gonna win 99% of street fights. Is who is the most aggressive first. That's like who wins 99% of street fights. That's not how a ring fight works. It's like you go into a ring fight, and it's whoever loses their emotions loses the fight. If you lose control of your aggression, you lose the fight. If you lose your temper, you get tired, you get heavy, you get slowed, and you lose the fight. So control of your emotions is a necessity to compete in martial arts.
and hey, that's something that you can only get through experience and time, huh?
Oh, 1,000%. Like the amount of times that I've been in fights and lost my temper or lost control of my emotions or been too aggressive. And it's not like that's a constant. That's a constant. It's not like, oh man, I learned how to control my emotions. It's like that's a constant battle throughout your career. Like that'll never go away. In my next fight, I always know that that's there. It's like I can obviously just touch gloves, go out there, swing like crazy, try to take his head off, but it's like that's not the best way to do it.
No, and then like, what is it about and that's the thing with the experience really kicks in, because I know in the beginning, now that you say that, like you really hit home when you just said that right now, because I'm like, damn, you just named like my first 10 fights, you know?
Oh, at least 10.
Right? I'm just like, why didn't I just breathe, bro?
There's like 5, there's like your first 5 where you're just blind. Like you just go in there and you just see white.
It's like a mushroom trip.
Yeah, you just see white and you go forward. That's like pretty much all you do. Is like after about like the 15th fight where I was like, all right, I can think now. I'm like my brain, the connection between my brain and my body makes there's a connection there. But before that, like you're just going out there running on autopilot. Like it's crazy. Like the advantage you have from that's the balance to it, right? Like the advantage you have from experience, and then versus like say damage and injuries and adversity and things that happen to you. Like that's like the true balance. It's like the experience that I have now is like crazy, and then like still feeling like the best I've ever felt is like a cool place to be. So that's like why you can be so close to a fight and be chill and be relaxed and stuff like that, because you're just confident in the place that you are at.
That's what I'm feeling right now. And bro, I feel like you've had that for a while, because the first time I saw you compete live was in your main event against Paul Felder. Mm-hmm. And that's when I got the chance to go hang out with you boys and train at CKB, man.
You coming over.
And even back then you had that, like, I don't know, how do you say it? Like that veteran, like you just had that like experience, you know, from, that's what I was going to ask you, from the UFC. So you know how like your first 5 fights, you said it's real crazy, and then you kind of learn how to slow the game down and see things?
Yeah.
Is that how it is when you go to the UFC and you start from the beginning, and then you like the first UFC fights get real crazy, and then you start to slow it down, and like, is it like another level?
Oh, that's like that's the game, right? Like you're in like your local circuit, and all right, I've got control of this one. and then you just go more lights, and then it's like more pressure, and then you get I'm at the point now where I need like more, you know what I mean? Like when we went back and like the pandemic hit and the Poirier fight was in the apex, and I remember walking out and counting, and I counted 15 people. I was like, man, there's 15. I was like, this is shit. I didn't feel like any nerves. I didn't get any adrenaline. And then like post-pandemic, you get it back and you walk out and it's like a full arena and you feel the energy and you feel the noise, like Madison Square Garden. You walk out and you're just like, yeah. Like I was just like, this is it. I was like, this is the buzz. Better than any drug in the world when you get out there. You're just like shot of adrenaline straight to the veins. You're like, I'm alive now. It's like after the Poirier or Joe, like before, I was just like, it just felt like showing up to the gym for like a sparring session. I was like, oh man, there's cameras and shit there, but I don't think about like, oh man, there's people watching behind those cameras. It's like, there's nothing compared to 20,000 people like being there and giving you their energy. Like that's, you can't transfer the energy like through a camera, or it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Do you think it's harder to So what do you reckon? You think it's harder, like with the no crowd? I fought like that in the coronavirus one time. We fought in the arena, and like we fought in the Singapore indoor arena, and it was super empty. And like I felt the same thing. It was like weird, right? Like you're like, yo, am I about to fight right now?
Yeah.
But there's something, so that energy, you feel it when you're in the ring, when you're in the cage.
Oh, you can use it. Like you use the energy. You use those the fans screaming and doing all that carry on. Like that's truly the. It's like the old analogy. It's like there's like you're walking along a plank of wood, you know what I mean? And you lie it on the floor. Well, that's easy, you know what I mean? Well, you go up 10 meters. Now you walk along that same plank of wood and you're thinking, oh man, if I fall, I might fucking break my leg. Then it goes to 100 meters and you're like, you walk along that plank and you're like, if I fall off this, I'm going to fucking die. Like it's like the task is the same, but like the pressure gets added, like the difficulty of the pressure, like there's more at stake, there's more on the line, but it's like you can't go backwards. It doesn't work like that. Like you need, once you've felt that level of pressure, you can't go, you don't, I never asked or I never prayed for like an easier road. That's not something I've ever asked for. I've never been like, man, I wish they would have given me easier opponents. I never crossed my mind. It's like, I wish I had like the skill to deal with those. Like that's what you truly can control.
That's heavy. That's heavy because we know a lot of guys that a lot of people want the easiest route to victory, right? They want like, all right, let's get an opponent that has you know how it is. You know how the game is, right? Like, but I think that's like a different mentality. I don't know if it's a Kiwi thing or a CKB thing, but that's what I feel like. All you guys are always looking for, like the hardest challenge out there. Like, oh, this guy is this. All right, let's see what he's got. Let's get it.
Like, oh yeah, you'll hear like all the fighters, guys that have been doing it their lives. Like, oh man, I wish I would have fought this guy instead of fighting this guy. And it's like, no, like at that time, I wish I had the experience I have now, and I would have beaten him. It's like go back. Like I've got so much experience because I've got so many losses on my record. Like there's a lot of learning there, and that's like the true like crux of our sport is because when you go out there and you go under the ropes or you step in the cage, like you have to, for that 15 minutes, for that 25 minutes, you have to believe that you have to truly believe that you're unbeatable. You have to truly believe, like mentally, that you're undefeated. You know what I mean? But it obviously gets like progressively more difficult when you know you're not. When you've been knocked out, when you've been exhausted, when you've been choked unconscious, and then still being able to walk out there and believing that you're invincible. Like that's the part that gets a lot of people where they're just like, you'll see it so many times where a guy's like undefeated. 10-0, 20-0, you know what I mean? And then he loses. And then he's just like, that's crash. Because obviously if you're undefeated, if I'm 20-0, I am unbeatable. Because I have no evidence in my brain to convince me that I'm not. So it's like, and as soon as he does become unbeatable, that's like the difficulty in our sport, is convincing yourself that you're bulletproof when you've been shot a bunch of times.
Yo, oh my gosh, it's so true. Yeah, that's like the delusion of being a fighter that you almost need.
There's an aspect. There's an aspect of delusion. There has to be. There has to be, because you are convincing yourself you're bulletproof when you got a leg missing because it got shot off. Like, people look at you and they go, "You're crazy." Like,
your record says otherwise.
Yeah, evidence contradicts your statement.
Hey, thank God regular people don't know what Tapology is. Like the people in the streets and the bars.
Yeah.
I do comedy and stuff, and they're like, "Yo, you're a fighter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Until they look at my record, I'm like, "Yeah, chill, don't worry about that," you know. So Google's getting a little bit too good, but yeah, it's something amazing about with the fighting, and I guess in anything that you want to be really successful, you got to be crazy and delusional, where you almost got to deny the facts and statements, like you were saying, right? And then, but I guess with the losses, you get to learn about yourself, and then you get to know what you're made of coming back and regrouping, and this is you've bounced back before, and that almost gives you the same type of motivation from being undefeated, maybe, like, oh look, this fight I got finished, and then I came back and I finished this guy and I proved that,
That's the DC asked me, he's just like, after you had some losses and then your last fight, like you come back, like how sweet was it to, people were talking, he said, like, even I was on ESPN and we get told, like, oh, talk about maybe Dan Hooker should retire. But that's and then after my last fight, he's like, how good was it to shut all of those people up? Or what do you have to say to the people that like critique you and stuff like that? And I wasn't at all negative about it. Like, I personally feel like after some losses or after a guy gets knocked out, like, these are questions that need to get asked. And it needs to be a part of our it's like a part of our life cycle as fighters, because if the guy does get knocked out, we can't have the attitude where it's like, oh yeah, chuck him back in there. Oh, he got knocked out again. Oh, that's all right. He's an exciting guy. Chuck him back in there. It's like, how many times before we start asking these questions? So it's like, of course I'm not offended by people saying that, or I don't get insecure, or I don't self-doubt myself when people start asking those questions, because I feel like they need to be asked. And the way that you answer them is go out there and perform, is go out there and prove to everybody that of what you're capable of. Like, it all comes down to the fighter. It all comes down to the individual. If you individual, like, no one can convince you otherwise. No one can convince a fighter otherwise. If a fighter doesn't want to fight, that's it. That's done. Like, you need to move on. But yeah, I'm like, not at all. I don't that, like, things like that don't at all like upset me. I feel like it's a necessary part of the life cycle. Is after like losses, people do ask questions, and then as the losses continue, like, those questions or that outside noise gets louder, because like, as we were speaking before, like, fighters are delusional. I am delusional. I could lose 20 times and still want to have a fight. You know what I mean? If people let me. But it's like, if you do lose, like, that, you get more noise. You lose again, like, more noise. You lose again, like, now the people around you start being like, hey guy, you're delusional. You know what I mean? Like, that. And it's just a necessary part of our life cycle.
Yeah, you gotta have it. I guess in anybody who's successful, they have to have that delusion where you gotta believe in yourself, even if nobody. Maybe that's a way. You gotta believe in yourself, even though nobody else around you believes in you, and I feel like that's key especially for combat sports, when it's just you and another person.
Like, that's a necessary part. That's a necessary part. That is a must. That is needed. Like, if you don't believe in yourself, you could have a million people. Like, what it's like. You could have a million people like, you're going to win this fight easy. But if you don't think you're going to win, it's like the first punch you take, you're just like, if you have a shred of self-doubt,
they're right.
You get hit and you're just like, maybe this isn't for me. Like, it's like just a necessary part.
that's a hard demon to conquer, man. That's the one thing I wish if I had, like if there was a serum or something you can take, it's like of self-belief. If they had a potion of selling it, I would fucking buy it in the gallons,
I think everyone would. I think it'd be
yeah, can you see?
I think it's called cocaine. I think that's why I think it's why they banned it in USADA, you know what I mean?
With the right amount of cocaine, you can believe anything you want. You're like, yo, I'm gonna start a business tomorrow.
Yeah.
In the bathroom
really
diluted.
This episode of the Honey Badger Hour podcast is brought to you by the Original Clippers Barbershop, located on 14227 South Dixie Highway. Make an appointment today. You can find them on the Booksy booking app or call 305-964-7882. More than 20 plus years in the game. And that's the Original Clippers Barbershop. Master barbers for a master fighter.
Oh, man. So then, all right, getting finished and stuff like that. This has been the hard one for me, do you think that, all right, if a fighter gets chinny, or do you believe in getting chinny, or do you think, like, when somebody gets dropped or something like that, is that like a facts thing that, like, oh, for sure, like, you gotta, do you think if you get dropped or something, you should change the way you fight? Like, should you become like, all right, now, if I got cracked and I know I'm a little bit, get more defensively sound? Or do you think that's like a mentality thing? Like, no, it's because something mentally happened. That's why I got dropped or something. Where if you kind of like, because I have had times in sparring where like I'll get cracked hard and I'm like, oh fuck. But then if I just kind of like bite down my mouthpiece and accept, like, all right, we're gonna go, and then I kind of keep my eyes open more bright, I can feel like the more shots coming.
I would say it's in my opinion like a mixture of both. I think I feel like you can get chinny if you don't give it enough time between concussions or between like knockouts. Like then obviously like a concussion is a bruise on your brain, and if I have like a bruise on my leg and then I wake up every day and I punch it, it's never gonna go away. So it's like I have to let that go away. It's the same as like with a knockout. Like if you get knocked out and you fight soon and you rush back too quickly, obviously like the bruise isn't healed. There's more chance of you getting knocked out, I'd say. But from that, like giving it the right amount of time off, understanding concussion and understanding the symptoms and understanding how to deal with it, understanding that it needs respect and to be treated properly, I feel like is very important. Changing your style, I'd say if you're like Wild West shootout Chuck Liddell and you're getting knocked out, and you're capable of making those adjustments, you're at a stage of your career where you're capable, then definitely make those adjustments. But I would say the biggest thing or the hardest thing after you get like knocked out is like the mental ability to come back, and those questions and the people around you being like, maybe he's like, people saying maybe he's chinny, maybe he's this, maybe he's that. As a fighter, you know that anything can happen out there. Like you zig and then you zig and you should have zagged, and you wake up staring at the lights. That's part and parcel with being a professional fire player. Like you're playing with fire for a living. Like one day you're gonna get burned. Like that's just the facts of the situation. You do the sport long enough, you're gonna go to sleep. Like that's the sport, and it's But so it's a mixture. I would say like a mixture of all three of those things.
Yeah, the mentality with but there is, you can definitely like, if you do get dropped or you feel like some way, there is definitely something to like, yeah, being a little bit more defensively sound, especially in the beginning. Like I know like a lot of guys, they'll be crazy, like they'll feel unstoppable because until they get dropped, they don't even think it's possible, right? Like, nah, I'm not going to get dropped. It's not me. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's time to like, switch things up a little bit, Yeah. Oh man. So how old is your daughter now, Dan?
My daughter's 5 in November, so she's 4.
November. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you feel that your mentality, did you feel anything change as a fighter? Because I know with my boy Shay and all my friends, whenever they have kids, they become like, I don't know, I call it dad hips, like they get that dad strength, Like, did you feel a change in your career after having a child? Like, did you feel like fighting for something different or? Definitely
to a point. Like you'll panic. You're just like, was just like, you're pregnant. And I was just like panicked. That's when I picked on so much more stuff. I started doing like commentary, and I was just like started thinking more about the future rather than about right now. I was like, fuck, I need to buy a house. I need to do this. I need money so my daughter doesn't starve. You know what I mean? So you just get like panicked about all of this stuff, and maybe took on like too much at the time, more than I should have at the time. But yeah, oh man, there's nothing that's incomparable. The motivation. I'm not saying to any young fighter go out there and get a girl pregnant. It's obviously like a huge distraction if it's not with the right person at the right time. You know what I mean? But I feel like huge added motivation, and huge just makes everything a little bit easier.
I remember after the Poirier fight, you had that epic picture just talking to your daughter through the fence. That was after the Poirier fight, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, all right, here's another one. Do you think that during the coronavirus, that leveled you up as a fighter, having another different UFC experience, fighting in the Apex in front of 15 people? Like, when you went back after we were talking about that. When you went back to Madison Square Garden after the lockdown and everything, did you feel like even more leveled up after the fighting in the, was that your first, no, that wasn't your first fight round, but like, did you feel more leveled up fighting in the empty arena, like afterwards, like, oh, okay, this is like,
it made me like appreciate everything more, like, because we kind of like took it for granted, you know, coming over here. Like it's made it like, obviously that was like an incredibly difficult period, like going to fights by yourself and doing this and that. So when we did go back to like Madison Square Garden with like our full team, there was like 50 people rolling deep to everything. Like I was just like having all my coaches there, having like a great training camp, full training camp. I was so appreciative of what we had, which I took for granted before the pandemic. So I was like super appreciative of everything that I had. But I would say that those are difficult times, purely because it was hard to not get focused, get like overrun with like the negative emotions of all of that situation. Like it would have been incredibly easy to get stuck in like a negative cycle, just being like, man, I'm just losing these fights because of the situation. I'm losing these fights because, you know, the government's chased me around. I'm losing these fights because I couldn't do this. I'm losing. Whereas like I not only didn't get like super negative about the situation, it made me like appreciative, but I also like lost those fights for a number of other reasons. Like I wasn't at the level that I thought I was. So for the last year and a half, it's not like I've been in the gym and I was just like, I blame those losses on the preparation. The preparation wasn't perfect. That's why I lost. Like, I lost because they were the better man on the night. They beat me. They did something to beat me. So I have to get better. So for the last year and a half, I've been in the gym, like really honest with my game, really self-reflective, and been like, all right, I'm shit here. I'm having some mental lapses here. Like I'm having some defensive lapses here. I need to put everything together. So it's like, I didn't blame the pandemic on those results. I blame myself. I made the errors that led to those results. So, because I'm the only one that can fix them. You know what I mean? Had I blamed the pandemic, I would be in this situation I have now with the exact same toolbox that lost me those fights. But I don't. Because I didn't blame the pandemic. I don't have that same toolbox. My toolbox is far sharper.
You're taking accountability for yourself, basically.
You have to.
That's the biggest way to success too, right? Like if you can just look at a situation, and even if 1,000 things happened against you, like, oh, my opponent missed weight by 10 pounds and so they switched him out or whatever. But if you can learn how to really take accountability for yourself, that's when you can make the big gains, huh?
Every fight I've ever lost, it was my fault. no, like I tripped me up. Like at some stage or another, like I tripped me up. Whether it was months out, whether it was weeks out, whether it was walking out for the fight, whether it was in the fight. Like every fight I ever lost, like I could have won. I tripped me up. I've never like been in a fight and like lost and be like, man, I could never beat this guy. Like that's never crossed my mind. It's like I didn't like. Sometimes it's like just too early. You know what I mean? Like even looking back, it's like there's no one I couldn't beat with the skill set I have now. And that's why fighting's like not so much about your opponent. It's like just a race. You're in a race against yourself. You're in a race against like self-improvement, and it's just me versus me. I'm not even worried about my opponent. He's not my worst enemy. I'm my own worst enemy. I'm the one that keeps tripping myself up. Jalin Turner's never tripped me up before. I've tripped myself up a bunch of times though. Like so it's taking responsibility for it.
And that's a really good point that you make too. And like when you've seen so you've been in the UFC a long time, and you've seen the guys come and go. You've seen the Conor McGregor era.
Yeah. I got 20 posters sitting at home, and it's like you look through and you're like, not. There's a lot of guys on the posters that are no longer in the UFC, and it's crazy. Like once you look at it like that, there's very few that are still out there and competing. Like this is it's a dog eat dog sport. It's a very difficult sport to compete at for a long period of time.
Yeah, it's definitely a patience game. It's a longevity game in the UFC. I realize, right? Like where it's, you could see guys, and you're just like, all right, let's see how long these fools are gonna last. I'm sure you get that all the time. You get a lot of hype guys coming in and out, and then you're still in there grinding away, bro, chipping away at the bits, you know?
Yeah, like it's you see so many guys like come into the UFC, and that's funny. Like through experience, you're just like, oh, this guy's doing this wrong. Like this guy's doing this wrong. But there's nothing you can tell anyone. Like I can't be like, hey, bro, like try you like try and give people subtle advice, and it's like you'll just have to learn the hard way. But it's like the same as when I have my gym and I have my fighters. Like you tell them, like that's the funny thing about it is like you try to tell them like there's not a mistake you are going to make that I haven't already made. So it's like when I say something, I'm trying to save you time. You can listen to it or you cannot listen to it. Doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you the easy way. If you want to do it the hard way, I did it the hard way. If you got the cojones to keep picking yourself back up and working on these things and get through it. But I would say most chose to do it the hard way. I tell them, hey, do this. This will be the easy way. And they're like, nah, hard way. And then they come back and they go, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, I know I was right. It wasn't a guess. I've been there. I done the exact same thing.
Like there's a reason why I got over 20 posters, all right, bro? Trust me, dog. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The proof is in the pudding. Oh, man. So then I saw, moving back, how long you been based? How much time did you spend in Thailand traveling and stuff like that about?
Yeah, I've been on a few trips. I think the first time I ever went was JJ Ambrose was the like coaching at the time. I think
that's a long time.
I think Rael had just left.
Okay.
JJ Ambrose was there. Phuket top team was like just new. Might have been 2012. Maybe
Okay.
was that the first trip over there. Then when I probably maybe the second time that I went over, 2000.
Remember when you did the tryouts? When you did the tryouts, like 2015?
I already knew you from 2012. Did we meet that?
No. I think it was when you did the tryouts. It's like when we started training together, full on and stuff like that. That's when we started. Really kicking it, remember? So you took a little bit of. You were in the UFC.
Well, I'd followed you from. Did you do the same one as Kai?
I did the one after Kai.
Yeah. So then
after.
And then I come into the one after. So I did the tryout, and then me and my wife stayed there for 12 months in Thailand. Nice. So I spent like a good amount of time there.
I have a theory on Thailand. I feel like it's a great place, and when you go there, like especially like a gym like Tiger Muay Thai, but I feel like if you're gonna go to a place like that, either you need to bring your own coach or you really need to have your how do you say it? Like you really have to have your game in order, like kind of like know what's going on. Like you have to like be looking like, because you can kind of get lost in the sauce out there, you know, where like you kind of like as far as like it's like a lot of freedom, you know what I mean? So you can kind of like
a lot of freedom.
You can kind of like do things the way you want to do, and then if you miss a class, you can just go to the next class, and you can go to the next class. So then it's kind of this like weird thing that I realized that I got caught up in.
Yeah, there was no like like back home there's like Eugene, right?
Exactly.
And it's just
So
like
yeah,
if he doesn't see you,
you're gonna know it.
You're done. Like
You're gonna feel it. Yeah. You're not
fight.
gonna get a fight. You're not gonna get proper good looks on you in training.
Yeah, you're never gonna get a fight. You're never gonna get any attention. Like consistently being at the gym is like number one, and we have like a schedule, and that's it. There's no negotiating it. It's like, nah, I don't feel like waking up at 7. I'm gonna wake up at 9 and do the class after.
Exactly.
There's no option for like that. It's a structured program, a Sam play, and it's just do not miss.
Yeah, well, there's something about that, right? Like, what do you call it? Like, I always call it like you need some. I always like when I have somebody like I don't want to disappoint in my corner. You know, like I feel like I go a long way. That
sure.
I've had some lapses in my fights where I feel like when I'm going there with just my buddy and I'm in some random place where nobody knows me or sees me, and it's like,
Been there.
I know it's kind of fucked up to say, but like for me, it was like it's a little bit easier to check out, you know. And I wish where like, damn, if I was at home, you know, like my home team and my family was there. Like I don't know if that's a mental thing on me, but I don't know. It's hard going on the road. That's all. Do you know what I mean? Like and living abroad.
Yeah, but
and
you
stuff.
can like look at any like hyper successful fighter. You can look at like Israel. You can look at Volk, and they've always had like Volk's always had Joe.
Yes.
Eugene's always had. I mean, Israel's always had Eugene. Like you've always had that person, and like that's a necessity in our sport is to have someone steering the ship and directing you, someone super experienced steering the ship and directing you in the right way. And like, yeah, it's just naive of myself and other fighters to just think you can do it on your own, to think that this is like, I can do this, I can reach that same pinnacle on my own 2 feet without someone helping me. Is when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, that's delusional.
It's right up our lane of delusion, dog. It's right up our alley of fighters.
I'm gonna be the pound for pound best fighter in the world by myself.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Like
I like what you did there, Israel. I'm gonna do it without anyone else. Like when you say it, when you sound it out loud, you sound like a dickhead.
If you knew better, you do better. That's my buddy always tells me, right?
Facts.
Oh my gosh. Hey, my man Dan, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We finally got this thing in live, bro. I've been doing all these Zoom calls. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen you in a hot minute.
Yeah,
it's not the same. You don't get the energy, bro.
Nah, it's not the same.
So I'm glad we got this one the first time in the flesh, man. We got UFC 90 coming up. You're going, bro, listen, dog. No pressure, but you're going up against this goddamn Aussie killer, all right? And I love the Anzac killer, bro.
Anzac killer.
This is the time, baby. I'm excited for this one, man. You got the new cut. You're looking good at 155. How much is it? What's the weight cut like at 155? Is it pretty much the same, or do you feel more healthy, or how does that work?
Oh, I feel a lot more healthy. I got a bit of weight to go. I won't give it away too much, but
there we go. That's all right. You know what I'm saying? We got time, baby.
We got time. Jordy's here. You can't fuck it up now.
Yo, once you got the fight dietitian in the game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Nah, he's good.
How long you been working for the fight dietitian?
Like I would say, like loosely, like a really long time. Like just because I'd done it for so long, like on my own 2 feet, and I'd known, like I've pretty much done every wrong nutrition thing you could possibly do. Tried every diet. So once like Geordie came into play, like I already knew what I have to do. Like I was already pretty good, you know what I mean? Like don't blow out in between fights, like don't do this. Like I knew how to bring my weight down properly without doing it too drastically and fucking up your hormones and stuff like that. So I'd already had like most of that ticked off the list. It's like just having that professional here for fight week is huge, where it's like dumb, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna finish here, and he's gonna have like my meals already prepared, rather than like running around like a headless chicken. And it's just a whole ton less pressure and less to think about.
It's a game changer. I tell any upcoming fighters in the game, I'm like, listen, bro, you got to get on this. You know what I mean? Like, you got guys.
As VJ Bland says, it's like he says, don't major in the minors. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like a young fighter. A couple of fights. I got a nutritionist. I got a physio. I got someone that jerks me off every third day. You know what I mean? And then you're not in the gym every single day for hours and hours on end working hard. Don't major in the minors. Don't do the cryotherapy and the ice baths and shit like that, and then miss wrestling. Like it's like you have to do the heavy lifting if you want those 1% things to really matter at the end of the day. It's just the level that we're at now. It's just you're fighting the top echelon guys in the world. You're competing in the UFC. Like all of these 1% things can be the difference between winning and losing at that level.
I think that's all it is at this level. At your guys' levels, I feel like that's where, because everybody at your stage in the game, everybody's tough. Everybody knows what. Yeah. Everybody has heart. Everybody's good. Everybody's gritty. Everybody's good everywhere. But it's like, who's doing all the extras? And when those fights get real tight, real close, you know.
That's it. Like it's something that you can never do. It's when I say like, oh, it's let's say I got asked, oh, who do you think is gonna win? Poirier, Gaethje. And it's like, that's a 50-50 fight. It's like those guys fight 10 times. He's like, Gaethje knocks him out 5 times. Poirier knocks him out 5 times. But it comes down to who can perform on the night. And it's like, as a fighter, you know to be factual. But you're like, as 99% of the world like walking out there, it's like whoever wins on that night would have always won. That's how 99.9% of the world, everyone except like the actual fighters, like that's the way that they view it. It's like if Poirier knocks him out, they go, oh man, if they fought 100 times, Poirier knocks him out every single time. It's like that. We know that that's not the sport. We know that that's not the way it goes. But you only have like 1, maybe 2, opportunities to on the night to get the performance that you want.
And it's such a crapshoot, because you can be on last Saturday, be like, man, last Saturday I would have whooped this guy's ass in the first round. I would have been done. You know, when you go to sparring, and you're like,
timing's a huge thing. Like picked it off like Israel and Volk, like they come up and they just peak at like the perfect time. Man, I used to just be like, we're gonna fight in 12 weeks, so like, fuck. Let's get to work, and then just go 100%. And mine was like that. Like you just know the time, and you get to the fight, and you're like, "Fuck, I'm exhausted. Like I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm injured, I'm exhausted." So I was like, something that I've picked off those guys is timing your energy for like the exact right time. Like you see it with Israel, like he's kind of just like doing the training, but not like performing. You know what? Performing at that level, and then as it gets closer, like the momentum builds, and then like a week out from the fight, like a week and a half out from the fight, like everything's sharp. Like every single session he's performing. So it's like you can learn a lot of stuff off those guys and pick their brains and just like you learn a lot just from observing the way that they approach it.
I'm sure that's been really good for you to help you out, to having two champions, two like of the best of their era right now, and and you'll be able to work with those guys all the time, and I'm sure that's able to lift you up a lot too when in training and stuff like this,
Oh yeah, for sure. Like having those two in the gym is like a crazy advantage.
Yeah, it's like a little secret, little ace in the hole, All right, last one, Danny, just to keep it going. Kind of like something we've been touching on a lot, but I kind of want to hear your perspective on this. So you hear this a lot, right? A lot of people say like, oh, you can't teach heart. But like we've been talking about through the whole podcast, like do proper coaching and tweaking your mental game and fixing what your advantages can get better. Can you teach heart? Or is that like, can you, because I always thought you can't teach heart. But now looking back, I'm like, damn, bro, if I would have just had a proper coach with a good, you know what I mean? Like not a proper coach, but like if I would have had like, Zig could have zagged to keep you in there, and maybe it would have been.
Yeah, but you have heart. Like that's that's a proven fact. You
Yeah.
go back and watch your fights. Like you have art. There's some people that just don't have it. And you can have you can tick a lot of boxes. You can be like super talented. You can be athletic. You can like work pretty hard. You can tick a lot of boxes. But if a guy goes out there and quit, there's some people that don't have the capacity to handle those emotions. That's what it is, bro. That's like what it is. And it's like, at what stage it just comes to that, like at what stage you want to get off the ride. You know what I mean? Some people you'll watch and you're just like some people, I've seen it in the gym. Like I took like a charity boxing event like back in New Zealand. And it was like their first sparring session. These guys, they're office workers. It was their first sparring session that they ever had. They put the gloves on and I go, all right, we're just going to ease into it like a jab versus jab. Like everyone relax. Bro, this guy gets like, boom, like he gets hit once. I just see him go like this. And he just like walks over to his bag, takes his gloves off, like puts them in his bag, like slowly does his hand wraps up, puts them in his bag. And I was just like, oh, all good. And he just looks at me and he goes, not for me. And I was just like, that's fear though. That's fear. I'd rather you jump off. I'd rather you just get smacked in the nose once and then just go, you know what? This ain't for me. It's like, it's everyone. It's like the sparring, then your first fight, then you know, this. It's like, when do you want to get off the ride? Like that. That's all it comes down to.
Oh my God. When you want to get off the ride. That's a great one. Because sometimes you be like, oh my God, I'm fucking done. I cannot do another round. But then if you just get up and you go, you're like, oh shit, 2 minutes in, you get that second win. You don't even know how it happens, bro. When you want to get off the ride. That's going to be the name of this podcast. I love it. Yo, my man Dan. I don't know, dog. I got this thing where like I'm a little bit scared of Dan, dog. You're just so cold-blooded, but you've been real chill. I like the new Dan. He's a lot more relaxed now, dog. The old killer Dan that I knew, bro. I don't know. I'll be scared to shoot you a message. Like, oh, you want to do a podcast? But
we're good, Bubba.
But now,
we slow
bro,
down. We slow down.
Man.
Age. Hey.
Age is, oh my God.
Soften with age.
Yeah, bro. Kids, you're married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Kids, dog.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dan, I cannot wait to watch you perform this weekend. I know the fans are excited. We got all the boys here in support. The team is here. The boys are here. I can't wait. You're gonna get the ball rolling. I really appreciate the time, my brother.
Nah, thank you, bro.
My man.
Thanks for having me on.
No, my pleasure, brother. Honey Badger Hour, UFC 290 exclusive with the Hangman. We're out.